So in the last video, we talked about the Canon T7i and why I think it's a great beginner's camera. If you've had it for a while and you've been using the kit lens, which is a great lens to have, and it can produce all your videos and great videos and pictures as well, maybe you want to upgrade to something a little bit better. Well, today I'm going to give you guys the 3 lenses that I think you should buy first when upgrading your kit lens. The first lens that I suggest that you upgrade to is the 24mm 2.8 Pancake lens. And the reason why it's called a Pancake lens is because it's small like a pancake. Most lenses are going to be, really long and really heavy. This is a really good lens because 24mm is pretty wide. It's also a 2.8, which a 2.8 is a really low aperture, which is going to be, have a big opening, which is going to let in more light. And it also will give you that blurry background, which everybody wants to go for on YouTube. And again, it's a really light lens. And the other major bonus is it's fairly cheap. I think it goes for around $120 on Amazon or B&H.com. It's a great lens to have. It's probably the one that I use the most for my Canon T7i, just because it's super light and it's wide open aperture at 2.8. It's a really good lens to have, and highly suggest this lens to anybody and everybody looking to upgrade. This is probably the first one I would buy. Again, it's an awesome lens. Now the next lens that I would buy is going to be the 10-18 wide angle lens, and this has an aperture of 3.5 to 4.5, no 5.6. I'm sorry, scratch that. The aperture for this is going to be a 4.5 to a 5.6. What that means is at the 10 millimeters, it's going to be 4.5. But as you zoom out through, 12, 14, 16, and when you get to 18 millimeters, it's going to be 5.6, which is, that's way down the line of the aperture. 5.6 is, you can work with that, but it's not the greatest. 4.5, same kind of deal, not the greatest, but it's a wide angle lens, like super wide angle. So if you're a vlogger or you're a traveler that does a lot of vlogging and you just walk around carrying the camera and you vlog, this lens would be perfect for that because you can get really close and it's going to look like you're far away. And it also has that almost fisheye look with that distortion at the end of the screen, which a lot of YouTubers go for that because it kind of has that funky feel to it for YouTube. This is probably my least used lens, only because most of my videos are going to be talking head videos like this one. I don't do a whole lot of vlogging. I thought I was when I first started YouTube, but in reality, I just don't do it a lot. Vlogging is just not my thing, not yet. But if you're definitely a vlogger and you want to be a vlogger, this is the lens to have because it's super wide. And I wouldn't really use it at nighttime because it has such a small aperture, which small is how small the hole is. The bigger the number, the smaller the hole. 4.5 is pretty small. If you're a vlogger, that's a great lens to have as well. I use it, but it's the least used ones in my kit. And the last but not least lens that I use, this is probably my second most used lens. If not, it might be neck to neck with the 24mm. I use this quite a lot as well. This is what you call the Nifty 50, which is a 50mm 1.8. 50mm 1.8. And remember this red dot right here. Now this lens is made for a full frame camera. And remember the red dot that I was talking about? Any lens, for Canon at least, that has a red dot is going to be for a full frame camera. What does that mean? When you put this on an APS-C crop sensor camera, you have to multiply the focal length by the crop factor, which for Canon I believe is 1.6. So 50 times 1.6 is actually going to be an 80mm lens. Now that's super zoomed in. So when you put this on a Rebel series camera or even the new EOS R or something like that, it's going to give you an 80 millimeter lens, which that's pretty zoomed in. So if you throw this on there, you definitely can't do talking head because it's going to be zoomed up all the way like on your eyeball. You got to take a step back, like a few steps back, probably like 10 to 15 feet away from the camera will give you a good composition in the frame. It'll probably look kind of like this if you're 10 to 15 feet away. The benefit to that is it's a 1.8 aperture, which is really going to give you a good bokeh, blurry, creamy background. And it's also going to let in a lot of light, which you can have a low ISO, which in return will give you a nice, crisp, sharp image. The lower the ISO and the bigger the aperture is going to give you a super crisp and sharp image. That's the great benefit of this lens. You could be in a pretty dark area and still get a great looking footage. I love this lens. This is actually one of my favorites. The only thing I don't like about it is you have to be so far away on a crop sensor camera. And as well, this takes outstanding pictures. Most of the pictures on my Instagram are from this lens right here. This is like, for pictures, this is what I use. This is my go-to lens for photography because it's such a big aperture at 1.8. So this is probably between this lens and the 24, they're both under 150 bucks. I think this goes for 150. The 24 millimeter goes for about 120, and I forgot the wide angle lens goes for about 250-ish. Maybe don't quote me. I'll put it in the description how much all these lenses are. But those are the three that I think that you should buy first, all at the same time, or you could buy one at a time, starting with the 24 mil. But again, those lenses will cover all the focal lengths, and you can do everything you need to do as far as photography, video, gimbal work, talking head videos. This will cover all of that. So I have one more lens to tell you guys about, and the reason why I didn't put this in the top 3 lenses is because this is not really one of my favorite lenses. I bought it as an impulse buy, and I thought I would like it, but I really don't like it. You can check other YouTube videos on reviews on this lens. It's good for photography, but as far as video goes, not the greatest, but it's fairly cheap. And this lens is the Sigma 17-50 2.8, and it's made for a crop sensor camera for Canon. So that's really good. So it's actually 17 and it's actually 50, and it's a 2.8 constant aperture, which means through all the focal lengths, it's going to be 2.8. Sounds great, right? Well, the downsides to this lens, the negatives is, first, it's really heavy. Like it's probably almost a pound, probably half a pound or so. I don't have a scale, but it's really heavy. You throw it on your camera, I mean, you got to work out to carry this thing around. Also, the major disappointment I had with this camera is the focusing motor is really loud. And when I say loud, it's like you can hear it even if you have a lapel mic and you're within 3 feet of the camera, you can still hear the focusing motor. I mean, it's loud, and it drives me up the wall, and it's the only reason why I don't really like this lens, and it's probably why it's pretty cheap, because it's got a super loud focusing motor. This lens right here, if you happen to not be able to afford the other 3 lenses, maybe it's all 3 of those together might be around 500 bucks. You can get this lens, which is under 300. I think it's like 220, 250, and you get all those focal lengths, and it's a 2.8 aperture, which is a really good aperture, and it's a zoom lens. This is a good lens for photography. Amazing. It's Sigma. It's sharp. Just that focusing motor drives me crazy, and I don't think I would suggest this lens to anybody unless you're on a real tight budget and you want to upgrade your focal lengths and your aperture. Then this would be a good lens. You know, I just thought I'd throw this in there and tell you guys about it because it is an option on Amazon. You can check YouTube. They're all going to talk about the focusing motor. It's loud. It sucks. But I just wanted to tell you guys about it. I felt like I had to tell you about it. It's another option Not the best option, but it's an option. All right, so that's it. That's the lenses that I think you should upgrade to after the kit lens for a crop sensor Canon camera. If you guys enjoyed this video, definitely give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to this channel, I suggest you guys hit that subscribe button because I'm putting videos out like this on a weekly basis. Tech, anything like that, computers, photography, videography, YouTube advice, things like that. Definitely hit that subscribe button. And also, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I will answer back. And that's it for this video. I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.